Jack Girls 1875. I hope you had a fantastic Christmas and a happy new year. Hopefully 2021 will be a better year for all of us. For my first video of 2021, I thought I'd continue my German football content and go through 10 fallen giants of German football. The teams on this list were at some point in their history hugely successful in the German game, but now find their glory years far behind them. Before we jump into the list, I'd like to cover some things. Like my previous video on the Frauen Bundesliga, this is all based on my opinion, so if you disagree with my choices, feel free to say in the comments. It's all open to discussion. I like to hear from you guys. This list's in no particular order of the club's size now or in the past, so clubs like Hamburger that might be further up the list than a club like Jena. I just like to put that out there. And then clubs from the former East Germany will be included, because I know you'd maybe want to see a split list, but I thought it'd be better to put the both together. So that's me explained what the video is going to be all about. Let's jump right into it and start with HSV. So in at number 10 we have Hamburger SV, or more commonly known as HSV. HSV are one of the first teams to pop into anyone's head when you ask for a successful German club that isn't Bayern Munich. Das Dino, which is their nickname, were one of the founding members of the DFB and for many years found themselves dominant within the West German game. So Hamburg's most successful period came in the 70s and the 80s. During this time HSV won 3 Bundesliga titles, 2 DFB Pokals, a Cup Winners' Cup and a European Cup. It was at this time that big players like Kevin Keegan also graced the pitch at the Volkspark Stadion. HSV also had the record of being the only Bundesliga founding club never to be relegated from the division. However, the 21st century, and more particularly the mid-2000s, the rot began to set in at HSV with problems both off and on the pitch. There was a lot of financial problems, the standard of players weren't exactly great, and then eventually in 2018, I've got to say, well, a lot of people were saying that the inevitable happened. They were relegated for the first time in their history to the Zweite Bundesliga, ending their 55-year stay in the Bundesliga. Ever since the relegation, HSV have really began to fall away from all previous success. The problems have got worse on the pitch. They bottled promotion twice, and both occasions on the last day of the season. They've been put out the cup by Dynamo Dresden, who are the league below them this year. And whilst things are tight at the Bundesliga too, they currently find themselves at the top. Now, today's match day might change that. Holstein Kiel might jump them, but it's safe to say that a club of Hamburg's size really shouldn't be in the second division, and that the glory years are far behind them. We're now going to move on to Locomotive Leipzig. In at number 9, we have Lok Leipzig, the first of the East German clubs to make it onto the list. So Lok Leipzig are one of the most successful teams from the former East, and a club that many people think of when you mention East German football. Lok also had an illustrious pre-war history under the name VfB Leipzig, and hold the distinction of being the first ever German champions. They lifted the inaugural German championship in 1903, beating DFC Prague, a team from then Austrian-occupied Czechoslovakia. In the final, VfB Leipzig also added the DFB Pokal to their trophy cabinet in 1936. As Lok Leipzig, after the war, the club found itself at the top table of East German football, regularly finishing in the Oberliga's top 4, and despite not winning the East German top flight, they found loads of success in the FDGB Pokal, which is the East German Cup. They won the competition 4 times. Lok Leipzig also became one of the most successful East German clubs in Europe, winning an Intertoto Cup in 1965, which was a big deal back then. It was considered a good trophy to win back then, and they reached the Cup Winners' Cup final in 1987, where they would eventually fall to an extremely talented Ajax side, which they put up a good fight and they had a good run in the competition. But like with most East German clubs, and there'll be a running theme with the East German clubs, and in this video, reunification wasn't very kind to Lok. Despite a cameo Bundesliga appearance under their old name VfB Leipzig in the 90s, Lok have found themselves bouncing around the lower divisions of German football, even dipping into the 7th division. At one point, Lok now find themselves 6th in the Regionalliga Nordost, the 4th division, with their 3-Liga promotion hopes being dashed last season in the playoffs against Werl. They fell to away goals, and it's not exactly a place a European finalist would want to find themselves. I mean, that would be like Tottenham finding themselves in League 2 30-40 years down the line from now. So there we go, Lok Leipzig. Now moving on to 1860 Munich. In at number 8, we have 1860 Munich, who in recent years have been in the shadow of their cross-city neighbours FC Bayern. Now, at several points in history, 1860 Munich used to be the bigger and better club in the Bavarian capital, especially during the era of the Third Reich and the Nazis. 1860 Munich dominated the regional Gauliga Bayern, which was created under the Nazis when they restructured football. They were the only representative from Bavaria in the national championship on many occasions, and in 1942 they lifted their first DFB Pokal. After the war, 1860 continued their domination of Bavarian football and became a founding member of the Bundesliga in 1963. Now, Bayern found themselves in the second division, so for quite a wee while 1860 Munich were actually the only Bundesliga representative from the city. The 60s were a particularly good era for 1860s. They lifted their first and only Bundesliga title in 1966. The second half of the 20th century saw 1860 yo-yo between the Bundesliga 2 and the Bundesliga, with long spells being spent in the second flight. The 21st century has seen 1860 face severe financial problems, which has led to them slowly falling down the divisions. They even found themselves in the Regionalliga Bayern, the 4th division, at one point 2 seasons back. They've got back to the 3 Liga, where they're currently sitting third, which means they're in the playoff spot, although it's getting tight at that end of the table. So you never know, could they maybe begin their long road back to the Bundesliga, or will they stay in lower league mediocrity? Who'll know? We're now going to move on to Carl Zeiss Jena. In at number 7, we have Carl Zeiss Jena, the second club from East Germany to feature on this list. They hail from the southern East German state of Thuringia. Carl Zeiss Jena were a big club from a small city during the East Germany period. Carl Zeiss Jena were extrememely successful, winning 3 DDR Oberliga titles and 4 FDGB Pokals. Carl Zeiss Jena also found themselves in the 1981 Cup Winners' Cup final, where they narrowly lost to Soviet outfit Dynamo Tbilisi, which was a very impressive side that would go and provide a lot of players to the successful Soviet national team of the 80s. Carl Zeiss Jena also had an impressive youth system at the time that churned out most of East Germany's star players. As was the case with loads of East German clubs, like I said, with Lok, reunification saw tough times hit the Ernst Abbe Sportfeld, with young talent being plucked up by West German sides and ever-growing financial worries for much of the past 30 years. Carl Zeiss Jena have found themselves endlessly swinging between the 3 Liga and the Regionalliga. Last season they came rock bottom of the 3 Liga, 20th, and now find themselves back in the Regionalliga Nordost, where they currently sit 4th, quite a long way off first Victoria Berlin, and that is the only promotion spot in those leagues, so I doubt we'll be seeing Carl Zeiss Jena back in professional football anytime soon. Now going to move on to Kaiserslautern. In at number 6, we have Kaiserslautern, a club that even in the position they are now are considered one of Germany's greats. So Kaiserslautern, like HSV, are one of the biggest names in German football outside the Bayern Munich or Borussia Dortmund. Kaiserslautern found their glory years mostly in the 50s, during which they won 2 national championships and provided most of the 1954 World Cup winning West Germany squad, which is West Germany / Germany's first ever World Cup, including the extremely talented Fritz Walter, who now their stadium bears the name of Fritz Walter, very famous player from the 50s, one of the greats and one of the best in the history of the German game. Kaiserslautern also found a period of success in the 90s, lifting 2 Bundesliga titles, one of which came only a year after being promoted back to the Bundesliga, and 2 DFB Pokals. Several big names, including Klose and Michael Ballack, also played for Kaiserslautern during this period. However, Kaiserslautern soon faced several serious issues both on and off the pitch, and a gradual fall from grace which ended in their first ever relegation to the 3 Liga is what's been happening for them ever since the glory years, and they faced bankruptcy on 2 separate occasions in the past couple of years, with Bayern helping bail them out. Kaiserslautern are currently sitting 15th in the 3 Liga, which means they're only 2 points away from the relegation places, so an unthinkable first ever stint in the Regionalliga, the 4th division, could be on the cards for Kaiserslautern. Is this perhaps one of the biggest falls from grace on the list? We're now going to move on to Magdeburg. In at number 5 we have Erste FC Magdeburg, the third of our East German clubs on this list. I'm sure Magdeburg and their history will be very familiar to regular viewers of my channel who watch the Football Manager series, but for those who don't and for those who are joining me for the first time, I will do a quick recap. So Magdeburg are arguably the biggest club from East Germany outside the two Dynamo clubs. Magdeburg asserted their domination in the FDGB Pokal. They are the record holders, joint record holders of Dynamo Dresden, winning the competition 7 times, which makes them, you know, a big club within East Germany. Their glory years, their sort of highest point came in the 1970s when they had a star-studded lineup who were led by East Germany's hero striker Jürgen Sparwasser, who went on to score the winning goal when East Germany beat West Germany. Magdeburg made history in 1974 when they became the only East German team to win a European trophy. They won the Cup Winners' Cup, beating a very impressive AC Milan 2-0 in the final in Holland. And they did win some DDR Oberligas as well. They picked up the top flight title 3 times. Again, common theme of the East German teams, reunification came along. It definitely was not kind to Magdeburg at all. They found themselves playing mostly lower league football, even occasionally falling into the 5th and 6th division. They did have a cameo appearance in the Zweite Bundesliga, the Bundesliga 2, in the 2018-19 season, but they got relegated straight back down to the 3 Liga, and Magdeburg now find themselves rock bottom of the 3 Liga in 20th, which means a return to semi-professional football is very realistically on the cards. The teams above them are starting to pick up points, and Magdeburg are continuing to drop points. I think relegation is highly likely this season. Not exactly a place where you'd expect to find European champions. We're now going to move on to Nuremberg. In at number 4, we have Erste FC Nuremberg, who are one of Germany's big traditional clubs. So Nuremberg are actually the second most successful club within the German game if you look at trophies and silverware. They are the record holders of the old German National Championship, which was in place before the creation of the Bundesliga, which is why they're the second most successful in terms of silverware. Nuremberg also held the title of the most successful club in Germany until Bayern overtook them. Nuremberg's domination of the German game lasted up until German football turned professional with the creation of the Bundesliga in 1963. However, Nuremberg did claim 1 Bundesliga title in 1968, and Nuremberg also have 4 DFB Pokals to their name, the last of which came semi-recently in 2007. Now, Nuremberg's fall from grace is really due to the fact that the club structure sort of failed to keep up with how football was changing, and this was a problem that Nuremberg had basically ever since German football turned professional and they scrapped the national championship system. Ever since the sort of mid-2000s, Nuremberg have gained a bit of a yo-yo club reputation. They're constantly swaying between the Bundesliga and the Bundesliga 2. Nuremberg's last relegation came in the 2018-19 season, and that seems to have caused permanent damage with a disastrous Bundesliga 2 campaign last season, seeing them escape relegation on away goals in the relegation playoffs. So they very nearly went down to the 3 Liga. It was only away goals that saved Ingolstadt from relegating them. They now find themselves 11th in the Bundesliga 2 after yet another poor start to the second flight. Not exactly where you'd expect to see the second most successful club in the country, but there we go. We're now going to move on to BFC Dynamo. In at number 3, we have BFC Dynamo, or Dynamo Berlin, whichever one you want to call them. And as most people will probably know, they are one of the most infamous clubs in the history of German football and probably football in general. So BFC Dynamo were the club of the East German Secret Police, also known as the Stasi, and were the most successful team in the history of East Germany's top league, the DDR Oberliga, winning 10 DDR Oberliga titles in a row between 1979 and 1988. Now, whether these were through fair means or foul is a discussion for another video. I'm sure people know all about, you know, how Erich Mielke, the head of the Stasi, was a club president and everything like that, but that is, we'd go hours talking about that. So BFC Dynamo also added 3 FDGB Pokals to their trophy cabinet and had several legends of the East German game grace the club, including Andreas Thom, who I'm sure not just Celtic supporting viewers of mine, but also anybody that watched Scottish football at that time will know Andreas Thom. I'm sure a lot of people back in Germany will know Andreas Thom as well from his time at not just BFC but Hertha and Bayer Leverkusen as well. So BFC Dynamo were hit especially hard by the reunification, as the political power they enjoyed and the financial backing from the Stasi and the Interior Ministry basically disappeared overnight. This led to BFC tumbling down the divisions and into the depths of amateur football. Several issues arose because of this, including losing good players, financial difficulties, really bad hooliganism, especially in the late 90s, was a blight on BFC Dynamo. They now find themselves much more stable and with a new identity in the Regionalliga Nordost, where they've found some consistency. They regularly sort of come mid-table, upper table, and this season they currently find themselves sitting 7th. In my opinion, this is probably the biggest fall from grace in the video. Now we're going to move on to Erste FC Köln. So in at number 2, we have Erste FC Köln, who hold the distinction of being the first ever Bundesliga champions. Now, Köln won the inaugural Bundesliga title in 1963. That was just one of Köln's many highs during the 60s and 70s. During this period, they added a further Bundesliga title and 3 DFB Pokals to their trophy cabinet. It was during this time that Köln made their mark on the German game. Now, they weren't that old of a club at the time. Köln were founded not long after the war, so it was impressive for them to be in this sort of trophy winning form at this time. The 80s were also an impressive time for Köln. They finished runners-up 3 times in the league, which is very impressive because there was some very impressive sides in the league with them at that time, and were a few of those times very unlucky not to win the league. They added another Pokal to their trophy cabinet, which was in a Köln derby as well. But ever since the 80s, the years haven't been kind to Köln ever since the 80s. And they've, again, a bit like Nuremberg, gained a reputation as a yo-yo club, frequently coming up to the Bundesliga only to go straight back down. They won the Zweite Bundesliga title in 2018-19. 1920 they spent in the Bundesliga and they stayed up narrowly. This season they find themselves precariously perched just above the relegation playoff spot. But with Arminia Bielefeld and Mainz continuing to drop points, I'm sure Köln will probably be safe. Now, they're the only club on this list to be in the Bundesliga, but for a club of the sort of success Köln had, a club like that really shouldn't be toiling near the bottom of the table and yo-yoing up and down. So there we go. We now move on to our number 1 spot, Dynamo Dresden. Last, but by no means least, in at number 1, we have Dynamo Dresden. So when people think of East German football, they think of Dynamo Dresden, the club of the Volkspolizei, the East German police. So Dynamo Dresden are the second most successful club in the history of the DDR Oberliga. They won 8 league titles and regularly flew the flag for East Germany on the European stage as well, because they got into Europe most often out of the East German clubs, and they were the most successful. They always got in a good few rounds in competitions like the European Cup, and they were also the joint record holders of FDGB Pokal, like I mentioned earlier, with Magdeburg. So they were very, very successful for the East German period, and they were also the most well-supported club in East Germany, sort of like the Bayern Munich of East Germany. That's what a lot of people say about Dynamo Dresden, and because of the less obvious connections with the police, that's why they found themselves popular with the East German public, and they had loads of legendary East German players like Jürgen Dixie Donner and Matthias Sammer, who Matthias Sammer went on to be not just an East Germany legend, also a United Germany legend and a Borussia Dortmund legend. And although Dynamo Dresden initially coped well with reunification, spending several spells in the Bundesliga, financial problems and mismanagement soon struck and they went crashing down the leagues. And like with many clubs on this list, Dynamo are a yo-yo club. They now find themselves yo-yoing between the Bundesliga 2 and the 3 Liga after last season's relegation, which was slightly unfair. It was mostly due to COVID and the amount of games they had to play because of COVID tests and everything like that. They got relegated. Now Dynamo Dresden find themselves 7 points clear at the top of the 3 Liga table, which means promotion straight back to Bundesliga 2 is looking ever more likely. They've been really impressive this season, but a shadow of their former selves, but they still attract a lot of big support. So Dynamo Dresden might not be a big club on the pitch, but certainly off it they still are. Now we're going to cut to the outro. So guys, that concludes my video on the top 10 fallen giants of German football. I really hope you enjoyed this video and found it interesting. If you guys are enjoying the top 10s, tell me in the comments and we'll get more of them out. I enjoyed making this video. These types of videos are always fun for me to make. I like getting all the information and getting all the pictures edited together, so keep your suggestions coming. I am enjoying doing them. Now, of course, these videos are set every time, but they do take a lot of time and effort, so if you can leave a like just to show a bit of appreciation, that would be much appreciated. Now, like I said at the start of the video, this was all opinion based. If there are any fallen giants of German football, which there's loads, that you felt I missed, then say in the comments. I'd like to hear your guys' opinion on this sort of thing. I like to get you guys involved in this video. Also get involved in the discussion. So tell me what club in this list you felt was the biggest fallen giant. For me, it's a toss-up between BFC, Nuremberg and Kaiserslautern. So tell me who your opinion was on the biggest fallen giant. Again, guys, thank you so much for the support you give me on the channel. I know I say it at the end of every video, but I only just really properly started uploading last year, and the support has been absolutely phenomenal. I wouldn't be here without you guys. You know, I mean, I'm just talking about my interest. You guys are along for the ride, and you help me out so much. So thank you so much, because I don't do this professionally. I do it in my spare time. So thank you so much for your support. It's been unreal. 2021 is going to be a big year. Keep your eyes peeled. We'll have more interviews, more German football content, more Hibs related content out for you all the time. As always, guys, remember to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, smash that subscribe button if you're new, and I will see you all in a while. Jack out.